If you're hungry, there's meat turning on the spit outside. If you're bearing illness, find a place to lay your head down and I'll fetch you a poultice. You hear that? That low, pleasant hum of electricity? It whispers across the vale like the winds of change. You've done well. Anything else I can do for you? Are you staying long? You should try some of my tobaccorn tea. I brew it in an old spittoon, but it's been cleaned. Reed Thompson. You here on behalf of that cold-eyed reptile? Let's hear it. What's Reed's idea of peace, then? Like everything else that comes out of Edgewater, that peace offering is canned. I and my own are living just fine out here by ourselves. You're doing this for Reed? Why? Cannery's got a regulator. You want ship parts, you ought to rip 'em out of the cannery's guts and leave us be. You've seen that miserable excuse for a town with your own lamps. Hollowed-out workers laboring their lives away at the cannery, living off whatever scraps Spacer's choice throws 'em. If you're going down to the plant, you should divert power away from Edgewater and toward our end of the grid. Think about it. You'd be liberating an entire town from a lifetime of service to that odious cannery. Seems the sort of thing a hero would do. Life in Edgewater grinds to a halt. The cannery shuts down, workers desert in droves, and our own little camp grows and thrives. Reed will never understand. He has been too long inebriated on the wine of corporate culture. All he sees is productivity, output, profits. I'm listening. I would have paid my last 5 bits to see the look on Reed's face when the last lamp in town burnt out and the cannery fell to silence. Why, in the name of the Eternal, would you do such a thing? This has Reed's fingerprints all over it. Hire some out-of-towner to turn on the power for Edgewater, thereby robbing the camp of power. Whatever your troubles with Edgewater, leave them at the gates and be welcomed here. Any questions, dear? I have been called that, among other things. Green Thumb, grandmother, the strange old lady who keeps flowers. But yes, Adelaide will do just fine. Suppose that weighs on who's asking. My flock likes to call me grandmother, on account of my providing hot soup and free advice. You can call me Adelaide, though. That'd be the garden, dear. You're standing in a garden. Also fertilizer, so mind your boots. Really? Now that you mention it, you don't have the look of an indentured laborer about you. Not nearly enough despair in your eyes. I do apologize for visiting upon your intentions. You and yours are welcome here. Parvati. Are you still in the custom of collecting flowers? You're welcome to take your pick. Make amends. Spare me. Only thing Reed knows how to make is a mess. I can't say I blame you. Reed is positively soporific. A hero to the people who matter. To us. To the ones who come around. To the ones you save. No, dear. The garden belongs to us all. Life is the gift of the universe, and the universe yields its bounty equally, absent of prejudice. A home for anyone who's ever turned their backs on Edgewater. A home for those of us with nowhere left to go and nothing to lose. So, like the spores of the puffball, cast on the wind and alighting on fresh soil, we put down new roots. Ah, cynicism. The privilege of the young. The soil around the Vale went sour years ago. But I found a way to sweeten it back up. It is an unpleasant story, dear. But the short of it is that sometimes one wakes up and realizes the place that was once her home for much of her life has changed. Terrible to those of us accustomed to the comforts of a civilized life. But I have always believed that freedom is more important than comfort. The secret recipe is a little bit of elbow grease, a dash of love, and a heaping pile of special fertilizer. What you need is a little taste of my special mushroom soup. It'll broaden your mind. Or at least your irises. My goodness. Aren't you just charming? The home in which we spent our lives has left us behind, and so we must move on. And that is as much as I will say on the subject. You bring power to Reed's town and you'll be killing us. Reed knows it. He's counting on it. Haven't you ever seen a novelty paperweight? I am getting old, you know. These 2 lamps of mine are not as bright as they once were. Or I might have seen you for what you are. Remains to be seen. Might be the man that saves the Vale. Might be Reed's personal gun hand. Remains to be seen. Might be the woman that saves the veil. Might be Reed's personal gun hand. None of us are ever just passing through, dear. Not without leaving some footprints behind, my dear. We are all visitors in a momentary universe. Our lives flicker in and out like the guttering of a flame. Here now, then gone. Me and mine are just carrying on as best we can, trying to live our lives in a way that does not feel wasted. People around here lack the strength to effect change. Or they have the strength, but not the will. You seem to have both. A little prattling never hurt anyone, dear. You might even catch a little sense. If you listen close enough, more of the colony felt the way you did. We'd have ourselves a proper revolution. I can't stop you from conducting your business down at the plant. I just want you to know that if you take our power away, you will have brought an end to our way of life. What makes you say that? This is my home. It will be my home even if Reed cuts our power. Simple as that. Not under Reed's watch. He and I would come to blows within a day. And he would never tolerate my tending to a garden. If you think Reed does anything in good faith, then you are asking to be lied to. Ought to give up the freelancing life and go run the board. I labor in my gardens. I fashion medicine from herbs and leaves. I nurse the sick to health and feed the hungry. That's because Reed was my boss. I was the cannery's one and only flavor specialist, you see. Remember that limited run of white chocolate saltuna? That was all me. My son worked in that cannery. When the plague started coming, he was one of the first to fall sick. We had a store of medicine locked away. But Reed refused to treat him. Said my boy didn't deserve treatment. Said the medicine would have been wasted on him. So I buried my boy in the cemetery, gathered my belongings, and left. That's as much of the story as you need to hear. I could not possibly care less if he does. But you're surely welcome to ask him. A fish rots from the head down. I do not blame the town. I blamed the leader. I did nothing wrong. The teeth were harvested from a body that went cold long before my tools ever touched it. Gold does not decompose. The teeth had to be removed. And while I am no licensed dentist, I should think I did a fair job of it. I remember a Eugene. Pleasant enough boy. Whatever happened to him? You asking me rhetorically, or whatever absurd accusations you have churning about in your mind? I assure you I have heard them all. Do I look physically capable of harming anyone? Wish I could say I was surprised. That town has a way of crushing your spirit, my dear. I wasn't keeping a corpse in my garden. I was returning it to the soil where it belonged, where it could do some good for my crops. Stealing implies property. Are you trying to tell me that the husk of flesh that was Eugene's body belongs to Spacer's choice, long after the spirit has left it? We're not cannibals, dear. I don't eat corpses. I just use them in my fertilizer. The Vale's barren. Been that way for years. Soil's been sterile about as long as I can remember. Not all over my boots, please. I just washed them. We are talking about organic compounds once inhabited by a sentient mind. A person lasts only until the last synapse burns out. The last brainwave flickers into the void. What remains is a carcass moldering neath the soil. Decomposition is a natural process, essential to new life. All life feeds on other life. All I did was follow nature's own way. Death is essential to life. When the spirit leaves the body returns to the earth from whence it came. Whatever you say, my dear. The crops I grow here are natural, nutritious, healthy. My garden does more than fill the bellies of my flock. It keeps them from falling ill. Do you see anyone ailing in my camp? Unlike the people in Edgewater, my flock don't fall sick with plague. I'd rather they learn to help themselves by leaving that dreadful town behind. The people in this camp all had the courage to walk away from the cannery, and you see how happy they are. I trust you will listen to your conscience. He would do such a thing. The question is, why would you agree to his plans? Reed's taken you for a sap. You're an outsider, and he's trying to use you for his own ends. Time's come to look toward the future. We'll grow, I expect. A lot of workers out there with nowhere else to go, blunt as a hammer. But you're right. Nothing can undo the past. You're welcome among us if you're ever so inclined. I don't look forward to turning folk away. Camp's gotta stay pure, though. Can't have corporate loyalists mixing with us. no matter how desperate they may be. Not as many as you'd think. We're not about to let the whole town join our flock. Just the ones willing to renounce their corporate loyalties and live the way nature intended. The town was enslaved to its cannery. You set them free. The ones who survived the shock of their own liberation will thank you someday. Help yourself. Cannery should have one in its electrical room. Now that the power's out, you won't have to worry about frying yourself. I am curious. Why did you help us? You don't know who we are. You don't owe us a thing. The plant's crawling with mechanicals, so it stands to reason you risked your life. The mysterious type. You planning on walking off into the sunset next? Well, I have got nothing against a little good old-fashioned pragmatism. You're not quite like anyone else I've met. You haven't had your consciousness programmed by the board. Well, if it's all the same to you, then you ought to divert power over to us, shut down Reed's cannery, and scrap it for parts. It's not much of a living. Every single person in that town has sold themselves to Spacer's Choice. The company owns them, body, blood, and bones. You've been there. You've seen it. All anyone ever does is toil over a cannery. They give their lives for some heartless corporation, and then they're tossed into a Spacer's Choice brand cemetery. So, what do you say? Divert power over to us. Shut down that abominable cannery for good. Why, thank you. You're Robert's girl, aren't you? I remember when you were but a sprout. Thomas speaks of you often. You know that's true, don't you, Miss Holcomb? Your father died of overwork. His heart gave out. Look what they did to this child. Lost her family to the company, and still she defends them. That was unkind of me. I'm sorry, dear. Robert is just where you left him, dear. He died too long ago. By now he's naught but a skeleton. That's not strange at all, dear. Few of us truly know where we are. The world can seem like a forest without end, and it is all too easy to lose one's way. But we must remember that being lost is the first step in discovering yourself. You almost sound like you've never had anyone ask after your spiritual condition. You poor thing. This is the old botanical lab, in Emerald Vale, on Terra 2. By the look on your face, I'm guessing you're not quite following me. Glad I could help, dear. A sadness of the heart brings sickness upon the whole body. No need to be tetchy, dear. I was only trying to help. Are you not feeling well? Ought to lay your head down if you're running fever. Are you talking about an escape pod of some sort? That sounds like fever talk, all right. So why am I tempted to believe you? I get the sense that when you say hibernation, you are not talking about a full night's sleep. Where did you say you were from? I could do without the mockery. If you don't want to tell me where you're from, that's fine by me. Is that a new settlement of some kind? I haven't kept news from outside the Vale. Now I'm convinced you're delirious. You really ought to lay your head down, dear. Babbling only agitates the humors. Oh, dear. I see what's happening. You've been taking Adrena time. That stuff'll burn right through your upper story, leave you raving and babbling. You ought to try some of my purgative tea. Won't cure what ails you, but it will distract you for a spell. Listen, don't you worry about what I think. That's not important. Worry about what the board thinks of you going around talking about lost ships from decades past. No. But the board may have reason to fear you. You carry on about coming here from another world, and people will talk. Talk leads to questions. Ask enough questions, and the board comes answering. Reed's dead? Excuse me if I don't shed a tear. I'm not exactly surprised he'd hire someone to cut off our power either. That's exactly his style. I was wondering what happened. The lab's running at full capacity for the first time in an age. There's power running through every outlet in the camp. You say Reed Thompson hired you to cut us off, huh? No warnings, no negotiating. Yep, that sounds like him. You are welcome here. I cannot tell you how refreshing it is to converse with a rational mind. That's exactly right. Rot is necessary for life. A corpse is bursting with the nutrients a young sapling craves. Oh, you're talking about that old piece of folklore. Maybe I do. I don't know yet. Growing up, I heard my folks talking about the hope. Always believed it was just a story we told ourselves to keep our spirits up. At least his remains have returned to the soil where they belong. Except for his teeth, of course. Maybe I do. I don't know yet. That's the thing about growing old. Your eyes start to fail. Elsewise, I would have seen you for the snake that you are, chopped you into pieces and roasted you on a spit. I figured whoever cut off that power was gonna come here to salvage something. Too smart to be a marauder. That must mean Reed sent you. This is all you're doing. Cutting off my power, killing off my garden. Without refrigeration, my food will spoil, and my flock will starve. I want to ask you this in private, away from the eyes of my flock, so they do not see me lose my temper. Tell me, why did you do it? Go talk to Grace and Thomas. Look them in the eye and tell them their life here is over, and the only thing left to do is go back to Edgewater. This is now your responsibility, and you tell Reed Thompson that I will never return to Edgewater. I would rather die among my flowers than live under his management. You killed my garden, destroyed my community, sentenced my flock to a lifetime of slavery in Edgewater for a power regulator. Well, shit, I wish it was personal. Are you really this moronical, or are you just putting on airs? Listen here, Hullhead. I'm only gonna say this once. You know what? You're right. The Eternal made you a loathsome reptile, and it is not in my power to change the color of your scales. As long as Reed is still in Edgewater, I will not return. Those are my terms. You offering to cross Reed off, huh? This some sort of twisted reparation for what you've done? Or you just looking for a chance to sow some chaos? Kill Reed if you must, or talk him into leaving if you can. He and I are not sharing the same four walls together. Tell Reed that I can make his people healthy again. I can end their plague. Start a new garden right in the cannery. 3 square meals for every man and woman in Edgewater. Tell him how I've made the Vale bloom again. The soil has whispered its secrets to me, and I alone know how to breathe life back into the earth. The secret is human corpses. I've been grinding 'em up in my fertilizer for years. Marauder, worker, don't matter much to me. A human body is rich with nutrients. Look at that. The snake's come back. Leave me be. Got nothing to say to you. I need some time to gather my personals. Good for them. I'm glad. Back to the old cannery with Grace and Thomas and Stefan and all the others. I never thought I'd see the day that Reed Thompson abandoned his post. Suppose we all have a breaking point. You have a peculiar comfort with violence. Killing off my garden, gunning down Reed Thompson. I do not know what you hope to accomplish. Killing Reed, killing my garden. You have sown chaos, and now we must reap the fruits of your violence. My flock has no choice but to return to Edgewater. We must tend to what remains of the town and carry on with our lives as best we may. Tell him what I have already told you, that I know the secret to bringing life back to the soil. Edgewater's cemetery's got corpses aplenty, enough for a generation's worth of crops. If I were in a better mood, I might be inclined to try and change your mind. Suppose it's time our flock made our way back to Edgewater. We must tend to what remains of the town and carry on with our lives as best we may. You're vexing to me, you know. Injuring us with one hand, helping us with the other. Here, I'm giving you something to leave us be. It's a ransom, you understand, not a reward. This don't put us on even footing, you understand. But it is a start. You're telling me you did all this just to put me in charge of Edgewater? Stranger, you are some kind of twisted. I might turn that old cannery into a garden. Got ourselves a whole cemetery bursting with bodies. I need some time to gather my personals. Long walk back to Edgewater. Got a considerable burden to carry. I expected it'd end like this. Lived out here for years all by my lonesome. Only right that I'd die the same way. I expect you've done enough for the Vale. If you don't mind leaving an old lady with her thoughts, I'd be much obliged. It is too late. and I'm tired of talking. I have got a means to cure the plague, and I will not share that cure until Reed leaves town. Those are my terms. You want my flock wasting their lives in that cannery? Fine. Go and talk to them. Time changes all things. Even Reed's stranglehold over Edgewater must inevitably yield to the attrition of time. May you find peace in the eternal. What can I do for you? Start anew? Edgewater will become the town it was meant to be. A place where we live in harmony with the world. Where none of us writhe under the whips of corporate masters. A place where all are welcome. Except for Reed's supporters, of course. The garden will bloom anew. I have plans to transform the old cannery into a nursery, with crops enough to feed a town. Saltuna was making the town sick. From now on, if anybody's hungry, they may feast from the bounty of the soil. But of course. And now we have a whole cemetery to ourselves. Damn! We need backup! Damn! We need backup! Damn, we need backup! Damn, we need backup! Stay sharp! We got us a dissident! Stay sharp! We got us a dissident! Stay sharp! We got us a dissident! Huh? Thought I saw something. Huh? Thought I saw something. Huh? Thought I saw something. Huh? Someone help! Somebody help! They're trying to kill me! Help! Help! Dissidents are trying to kill me! Look out! Dissidents! Look out! Dissidents! Look out! Dissidents! I ain't dying today! Die! Die! I'm gonna put you down. Thought I'd just roll over and die. Time I taught you a lesson. You asked for this. You just don't know when to quit. You made me do this, lawbreaker. You just broke your last regulation. You just broke your last regulation. You just broke your last regulation. The architect saved us. The architect saved us. The architect saved us. I'm gonna need a 0G after that. I'm gonna need a 0G after that. I'm gonna need a 0G after that. Ugh. Blood all over my uniform. Blood all over my uniform. Blood all over my uniform. Is it over? Did we win? Is it over? Did we win? Is it over? Did we win? I just earned a fine bonus. I just earned a fine bonus. I just earned a fine bonus. Please, I don't want to die. No, please. I'm just doing my job. No, please. I'm just doing my job. No, please. I'm just doing my job. Where the hell are you? Where the hell are you? Where the hell are you? Damn. Lost sight of him. Got eyes on him. Got eyes on him. Got eyes on him. Hey, I saw that. Hey, I saw that. Hey, I saw that. Hey, that's against regulation. Hey, that's against regulation. Hey. That's against regulation. You trying to get us all in trouble? You trying to get us all in trouble? You trying to get us all in trouble? You, hold it! You, hold it! You, hold it! Stop! Hey, stop that criminal! Help! Lawbreakers! Halt! 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 Hey, get away from that! Hey, get away from that! Hey, get away from that! You're a deft hand with a mag pick. 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 Hey, you! Don't move! 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 Stay away! Stay away! No, don't do this! I give up! I give up! Oh, Lord, that hurts! Stop! Hey! What do you think you're doing? Hey! What do you think you're doing? Hey! What do you think you're doing? What do you think you're doing? Payday, 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 payday. Thanks for the bits, friend. Thanks for the bits, friend. Thanks for the bits, friend. Glad we had this talk. Glad we had this talk. Glad we had this talk. Carry on, carry on, carry on, carry on. Do what you want, I guess. Do what you want, I guess. Do what you want, I guess. Just keep your fingers to your own self. okay? Just keep your fingers to your own self, okay? Just keep your fingers to your own self, okay? I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this. Just don't make any trouble for me, okay? Just don't make any trouble for me, okay? Just don't make any trouble for me, okay? You're lucky I've already filled my quota. You're lucky I've already filled my quota. You're lucky I've already filled my quota. Nothing there. Nothing there. Nothing there. You on your break? Enjoy the 2 minutes. You on your break? Enjoy the 2 minutes. You on your break? Enjoy the 2 minutes. Enjoy the 2 minutes. Oh, it burns! Get it off! Get it off! I'm bleeding! Shit! Oh, my eyes! Oh, I can't see! Oh, no! My legs! Shit! Fuck! My arm! Put that away! You're making me nervous! Put that away! You're making me nervous! Put that away! You're making me nervous! You think you're tough waving that thing around? 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 Is this some kind of threat? Are you insane? Is this some kind of threat? Are you insane? Is this some kind of threat? Are you insane? Is this some kind of threat? Are you insane?